recovery kit. These are the bags. Pretty light. Yes, I was wrong. Yeah, even lighter than I thought. That's probably 5 kilograms a pack. And there's your kinetic rope. Perfect for a Unimog. So we've got a bit of a scenario here. We've got a vehicle down here. The grass is a bit slippery. Some idiot didn't deflate his tyres and he started spinning his wheels. Yeah, inexperienced, you know what I mean? So, but that's all right. We'll help him out. We've got a turfer winch here now. Now most people hate these winches, but I love them. Turfer winches are a great bit of kit. I'll just go through. The beauty of a turfer winch is you can pull in any direction. You can pull yourself upwards, sideways, reverse, whatever. The downfall with a turfer winch is you get a workout. For some people, the advantage of a turfer winch is you get a workout while you're out on the trails. This is your turfer winch. As you can see, it's rated at 3,200 kgs. That's pulling. You shouldn't lift with these. They've got a winch forward lever, a winch rearward lever, a nice pin here to anchor off to an anchor point, and your winch rope goes in here. Now they come with a specific winch rope. It's coiled up on this coil here, and it's lots of fun to play with. Winch rope, steel wire rope. The end is tapered so you can feed it through the winch. So first things first, this is your release lever. So you just need to push this forward. Some of them have got a little lever on the side here to help lock that off, but you just push that in until it locks off there, okay? Now that's got the jaws open. One really important thing, if you do have a turfer, don't store it in this position. Keep that jaw down at all times, because the springs in there, they'll get stretched, and then when you need to use your turfer, it won't work for you. Now you can see this turf is pretty old. It's been around. Who knows what sort of condition it's in, but we'll see what we can do with it today. So you just feed it through. You might have to wiggle your levers around, but eventually it'll come out the back end here. It's got a little hole in the rubber seal there, and it'll come out through the end. Once you've got it through, you lock that down and it can't come back out. From there, winch forward, winch out. Pretty straightforward, nice and simple. And obviously, you got a nice long lever that you can put on there. These things are got a built-in fail-safe. On the winching lever, there's a shear pin in here. It's a little brass pin that goes through. So if you put too much load on this, and trust me, you'll know about it if you're putting too much load on it. Personally, I've been on these and pretty much taking a run up with the lever against my hip, pushing, and then getting the other side of it and pushing. You know, you can put a lot of load on these things. If you go too hard, it'll snap that shear pin and it won't overload the winch. They can hold a lot more weight than they can pull. That's their pulling rate, but they can hold a lot more than that. So they can, it's around about 5 tonne they can hold. So after you've snapped that pin, you clean the brass out of there. In here, in the handle, there's extra pins, and you can order extra pins for those. All right, so anyway, that's the turfer, really good bit of kit. All right, so in our bags here, we've got our soft shackle pulley block. These are made of aluminium. They're not as heavy as the steel ones that go through the side of tanks. There's still a little bit of weight to it, so if it does fly, it's still going to do some damage. But it won't go through a headboard, it won't go through the side of the Mog, it'll stop pretty quickly. These soft shackles, now Dan can probably speak about this. The first time Dan saw these used was that recovery where I recovered that 20-tonne Oshkosh truck. I was making those soft shackles myself. They're a different style. These are a stronger soft shackle, but they use a little bit more Dyneema rope to build these ones. This style here, they'll handle a lot more. I think it's 25, I think they're rated at.
24.
24, yeah. So in reality, their breaking strain will be somewhere around 30, you know. So yeah. So in the pack, there's your 2 winch extension straps. Again, rated pretty high. Dyneema rope. If it snaps, it's not going to kill anyone. Keep it in these great bags because the one down forward Dyneema rope is it wears out a lot quicker. If it's out in the sun, if it's got oils on it, things like corrosives, it'll wear out, and it can get dirt inside it, and if it's just bumbling around in the dust, it'll gradually wear out until you want to use it. It won't be as strong. So again, where's our rating? Yeah, 1320 kg. Sorry, 13,200 kg. So, yep, perfect for the run for winch that's on the front of these, front, back, side, whatever you want, of these Unimogs. How many metres? 20.
20 metres each.
20 metres each, and your winch rope on the Runva is 28. So it gives you a fair bit of distance, because you'll not always have a tree in the perfect position. The other thing is your tree protector strap. You can also use these as your compensator strap between the 2 points on your vehicle. We've got a vehicle down here. It's pretty badly stuck. We've only got a turfer. It's not rated much, and it's a hot day. I don't want to be pulling too hard with that, so I'm going to go straight for a 4-to-1. So I've got a few pulley blocks to play with.
Take them down.
Yep.
And one rope.
Yep. As Dan said, he's going to add some more soft shackles to these kits. So just for this scenario, I've made up some temporary soft shackles. That's just a piece of ratchet strap. Now, as a ratchet strap, they're rated at 2.5 tonne, but the strap itself, its breaking strain is about 6. I've got a bow line there, so halve that, so 3 tonne. However, the way we set these up, we go around whatever we need to hook onto, and then do another bow line back on itself. So it'll be in a basket. So 3 plus 3 is 6 tonne. So we've got a 6 tonne capacity there, which in this scenario, with a 3 tonne turfer, that's more than enough. When you're doing these recoveries, it's really important to get everything set up, but not completely hooked up until the last moment. Because while it's hooked up, even if the pulleys are hooked up, but the winch is still not hooked up, if that vehicle happens to roll, once the end of the rope gets to the pulley block or something, it can grab and then it'll pull tight. And then the vehicle's got momentum, so then you'll snap things. If you're standing near it, you'll get your nuts ripped apart or whatever. So just be careful of that. Try to have everything set up before you start doing the recovery. If you don't know how to do a bowline knot, there's a nice video on YouTube you can look at. It happens to me on my channel. So if you have everything set up but not hooked up, the rope is still what we call dead rope. So you can step over the rope, it's safe. You can work in around the rope, it's still safe. But once you go live, once you connect up, the rope's dangerous. The rope is what we call live rope. Sing out to other people so everyone knows, all right, it's go time. It's a bit dangerous now. Once you go live, don't step over the rope. All right, but there's a lot of things to think about with where you're going to put the recovering vehicle. You need to make sure there's enough space at the top of the hill for the vehicle you're recovering. And also you may need to manoeuvre the recovering vehicle, depending on how long the recovery is, whether you're coming up a steep hill a long way, you might need to recover it a certain distance, and then you may need to tie it off to a tree somewhere, and then rejig your recovery system, and then go again, tie it off to a tree again so it won't roll back, rejig your recovery system, and then go again until you get to the top of the hill. Luckily we only need to pull this vehicle a short distance in this scenario. So we're about to go live now. Our winch is set up over here. As the controller, I'll make it live, and then I'll go around once I've taken up a little bit of tension, I'll check my recovery system, make sure all the pulleys are in the right position, everything's sitting correctly before we put the full load on it. So something I do in defence, once I've hooked up and I've made it live, I'll now yell out, "Rope live!" just so that everyone in the area knows. All my sentries that I've put out, they know, everyone else knows, the driver knows, and they should relay that. If something goes wrong, whether your rope is over a sharp rock or something like that, and it's snapped and it's hurt someone, and later down the road that person is taking you to court over it, or they've claimed insurance and the insurance company is taking you to court over it, you need to be able to say, yes, I took the appropriate measures to make the area as safe as possible. Yes, I had the winch rope dampener over the winch rope, as per the manufacturer's recommendations. Use them just so that you can say, yes, I took all safety measures that I could possibly take. Okay? Don't be complacent thinking, oh, I've got my winch rope dampener on there, we're good to go, we can stand right here, whatever. It's not the case. Don't rely on it. Synthetic rope, happy days. Everyone's probably safe. Cool? Righto. Righto, controller, can you, wait, whoa, steady there, Phil. Now, so Phil was about to step over the winch ropes, take the nice easy route to his driver's door. And like I said before, once it's live, now that it's live, we don't step over the winch rope. Just in case that vehicle happens to take off, might be a little rock under there that's just holding the weight and decides, I've had enough, and just slips out, and that causes a concertina effect, and then the vehicle rolls, winch rope tightens up, Phil's over the top of winch rope, Phil's no longer Phil. Yes, he might be Phyllis. So round the back, and again, that again is a dangerous area behind the vehicle, so he's going to be real careful looking at the vehicle, making sure it's not going to roll back on him while he walks behind the vehicle. Because I'm the controller of the situation and I've got lots of people handy, I'm not going to operate the winch. My assistant over here, Diesel, if I can get you over here, mate, and pull any slack out of it. Yeah, only with gloves on because I'm operating with steel wire rope. Lock that off now, all the tension's out of it. Oh, sorry, all the slack is out of it. There you go, Diesel. Now at this point I just want to take up a little bit of tension and then I'll go around and make sure everything's sitting correctly. So that's probably enough. Thanks, Diesel, just wait there. Now I'll just take a walk around and have a look at my pulley blocks, etc. Have a look at my rope, making sure it's not resting over any sharp rocks, etc. Yep, so I've made sure all my pulleys are good. My rope is not touching anything sharp. Everything's safe. All my shackles are done up right. I'm good to go. So I'm just going to take up a little bit more tension so that then Phil can let his handbrake off. All right, so we've got a fair bit of tension there now. Phil, just slowly with your foot on the foot brake, release the park brake and then squeeze off the foot brake, thanks.
Yeah, copy that.
Beautiful.
Perfect. Went back about half an inch.
Nice one, thanks, Phil. So communication's great if you've got it. Otherwise, just come up with some hand signals that you can relay information back and forth, and keep communication with your operator and your winch operator. Definitely have the handbrake on this recovering vehicle on the anchor point, and if need be, have another mog behind it, or truck or vehicle, anything you can tie to it off the back of it, so you've got an extra weight sitting up here. Yeah, with letting the handbrake off on that vehicle down there, don't just sit there, thumb in bum, release your park brake. If there's not quite enough tension on the winch setup, you'll roll backwards, and then that may shock load, put too much load on the winch setup, may do some damage. So just put your foot on the brake, park brake off, and then just gradually ease the brake off until you feel yourself roll back a little bit, and then feel the winch take the weight of the vehicle and then you take your foot off the brake completely. But be ready and always have someone in that vehicle so that if something goes wrong, they can put their foot on the brake and stop that vehicle. Righto, winch operator, let's go. For every half a metre, or let's say for every metre that Diesel pulls on this little winch rope, that vehicle is going to move a quarter of a metre, because we've got a 4-to-1 here. So for every metre you pull in, your vehicle only moves a quarter. So it's a pretty hot day. Diesel's had enough of winching, and conveniently this Unimog here has been fitted with one of Unidan's run for winches. Bingo! So let's not be silly and do manual labour on a hot day. Thanks Diesel. Now like I said before, there's a release mechanism on this winch. You can winch out. There's no shear pin on this because you're not overloading it, you're winching out. Right? But same deal, you just winch back and forward, and we're taking tension off that winch setup. Rope dead. I know. Question was asked there, if you don't know how to tie bow lines, or if you forget when you're out in the desert, you haven't watched my video quite enough times, and you forget how to do a bow line, you don't have enough soft shackles, can you use a normal metal shackle? Yes. Just make sure that the rating on the metal shackle is high enough for what you're doing. So we've got a 10-ton winch, we wouldn't use a 4.5-ton bow shackle. Okay, so make sure it's rated high enough for the job you're doing. Rope live! That's just a force of habit of mine to always yell that out whenever I connect up. It's a good habit to be in though. These controllers are idiot proof. There's pictures in there and it tells you which way it's going. So even for me, being an idiot, I can figure out which way to go. So again, I've got an operator in both vehicles so that they can use the brakes if they need to. I'll take up tension. So as you see, we've got 4 ropes going here. It's pretty busy. You just want to make sure that your ropes aren't twisting over each other. You might have seen me adjust the pulley block down there. I just needed to turn that over because the winch up here is coming from above. So you just make sure your pulley blocks are all orientated the right way so your winch ropes are nice and neat and not twisting over each other. So I can see from here my pulley blocks are orientated right, my ropes are all nice, everything's good to go. I can see it from here, the pulley blocks are sitting nice. Just make sure that the rope is over the pulley block and it hasn't slipped off to the side and it's just on the snatch block, the soft shackle itself. So make sure you go around and check. Now I'll get to hard work, unlike Diesel, who took it easy. Handbrake off, mate. So that winch is working pretty easy. It's not labouring. I've got it on the lower setting. It's not working hard at all. Now while this is going on, I still need to keep an eye on the ropes, making sure none of the connectors are going to pull through the pulley. Also keep an eye on your winch rope on the drum so that it's not bunching up on one side. Park brake, Phil.
Park brakes on.
And shut down. Righto, so we've got Phil's wheels up over that steep section. He should be able to drive up the rest of the way. If not, we can reconfigure and just go a single line pull now that he's over that steep part, and we can just help him up the rest of the way. So at this point we just need to take the tension off and release our equipment now. Now, a little point, just to make things easy for you at this point in time. Now, I know I've talked about safety and to stay away from the rope. However, at this point in time, when you're releasing the rope, you need to get a little bit of slack on the rope so you can undo things. You don't want too much tension. Even if you've just got a little bit of slack in the rope, you haven't got enough to play with to undo a soft shackle. So you need to get a little bit more. You can just grab the side of the rope like this with a finger. So this way, if something does happen, if Phil's truck does roll down, this is going to pull out of my fingers pretty easy. I'm not grabbing hold of it, I'm not wrapping my arm around it, I'm not leaning over it, I'm just stepping away from it, holding it gently, and I'll winch out while I pull on it. So now that makes it easy for me to undo things, and it's held a little bit of weight on the winch rope so that it doesn't bird cage and bunch up on the winch drum, okay? Yeah, sweet. I can talk a bit quieter now. Don't have to yell. So with a winch drum, it's very easy for them to get bunched up and bird cage, what we call bird caged. It's where the winch drum is rotating but the rope stops turning. Let me just make this dead. Rope dead. So in here, this rope is very pliable. It's not very heavy. It won't keep on dragging itself out, but it doesn't take much to stop it from moving, but the drum will keep moving, winching out. If that happens, you get a bit of bird cage there, and then when you roll the winch rope up on top of that, it won't pull that tension out. This is more of a problem with steel wire rope winches, but it still happens with the synthetic ropes as well. So when you're winching out, just make sure you got a little bit of tension on it. It doesn't take much, just a little bit. Same. When you're winching in, at least from the lower layers on the drum, try to put a lot of tension on it so that it lays flat. Otherwise later, if your inside layers are not wound in tight, and you put weight on the outside layer, it'll somehow make the inside layers all sort of bunch up inside and kink up in there. Particularly a problem with steel wire rope, but still a problem with synthetic, and it gets pretty ugly and it can really damage your winch rope, so just keep tension on it when you're winching in or out. It was mentioned a few times about anchor points. There's a lot of things, someone mentioned about digging your spare tyre in. There's lots of different methods you can use to create an anchor point. You can use, obviously trees are the best thing, they're ideal as long as they're big enough and in solid ground. I've been in a situation with this particular truck, the 6x6 Unimog recovery vehicle, in a situation where there was no trees. They'd cleared the trees for 100 metres either side, and I was in a spot of bother down to the, past the side steps actually, and yeah, so my best winch point was pretty much 90 degrees out the side of the vehicle. It was not ideal. However, I made it work. The other thing you can do is use ground stakes. Phil was good enough to make up some ground stakes himself for his own purposes, and we've used these out here today as a ground anchor. Now, it's pretty self-explanatory, but we've driven these pins into the ground, about 600-700 mil, and then anchor them back to each other. So if anyone's been camping in the sand and they put a peg in the ground, held their tarp down, it just pulls it out, leans it over. So with this part of the stake, there's an eyelet here, so this part of the stake is designed to stay out of the ground, and you tie this back down so that it can't fall forward. However, we're putting a lot of load on here, it's not just a tent, so it'll pull this one over. So we put a third one to hold it back, and then with enough tonnage it'll pull that one over as well. So we've got a fourth one as well. If you're ever lucky enough to get hold of the ground anchor hold fast that we have in the army, that may be auctioned off if you're lucky enough to afford an MRV when they come to auction, and if you're lucky enough for that MRV to have all its equipment in it, it'll have a ground earth anchor hold fast, and that is a series of plates that are bent with eyelets either end, and there's 8 holes in each plate and a bunch of pins that we drive into the ground with an eyelet at the top of each pin. We've tested that in the army extensively. There's a lot of fun on my recovery course doing that, punching those things into the ground. It's a lot of effort, but if you're really stuck, that'll create a good anchor point for you. And we've pulled in relatively soft clay or red dirt ground that was wet, Yakandanda State Forest. It's got lots of rain all the time, and we held 8 tonne on that earth anchor hold fast without it moving. In sand, the earth anchor hold fast also works to around about 6 tonne, which is surprising, but that earth anchor hold fast, that was using 4 plates in a V configuration, one there connected to it, another one there connected to it, with a compensator between the two of them. So that's 4, 16, that's 32 pins in the ground at around about 800 each. So it's a lot of hold. It takes a lot. The other idea is you can dig what's called a dead man. Now, dead man is you cut down a nice tree over there, get a nice big log, or even this big log that we've got next to the fire would probably suffice. And you dig a hole that's wider than the log, and you dig that down to about at least sort of waist height, or belly button height, depending on how much load you're going to put on it. And then you also need to dig a T off the front of that in the direction of where you're going to pull, and then you wrap a chain or something around that log, bury the log, fill that hole in, and make sure the end of the chain that you're using, you can unlink it and then leave the other end on your winch, and then it'll pull that chain all the way through. Don't link it on there and tie it on there, because then you'll be digging the thing up. You don't want to do that. So that's a dead man. It's a lot of effort. On basic training, I dug one of those that was up to here with a log much bigger than that. Actually, it was a little bit wider than the truck, and so that was a fun day. Yeah, it's something you want to avoid. There's lots of other anchor systems you can think of. Series of trees. If you've got small trees, you can do a similar thing to what we've done here. The first tree, you tie the top of it back down to the next small tree, and to the next small tree. You can get a log between 2 small trees and then tie those trees down, all sorts of things. You just got to think outside the square, have a look around you. What can I utilise? While you're waiting for your bank account to build up enough that you can afford a recovery out of the Simpson Desert with your Unimog, you got a lot of time to think about what you can use. You might find some things on your truck, in your truck, or around the environment that you can use to affect a recovery and get yourself out of that sticky situation. And without effort, there's no reward. So if you manage that, you drive on down the road a happy person, that you've got yourself out of that sticky situation, and you'll have good campfire stories to tell. Steel wire rope doesn't like to go over sharp edges or around sharp curves. So the snatch blocks that you use for steel wire rope are definitely not made of aluminium like these ones are. They're made of steel, they're hardened steel, and they're a larger curve, depending on the size of the winch rope and the size that the amount of load you're putting on it. So for example, the 55, I believe they were 55 blocks that, what we call in the army, 55 blocks that Phil had hold of. They are for 13 mil rope, up to 16 mil rope that we use on the HRV, which is the Mack recovery vehicle. The Unimog uses what we call a 28 block, which is much smaller, but it still has a larger diameter than these little aluminium pulleys over here for steel wire rope. Yeah, so but yeah, avoid using these style pulleys for steel wire rope. Stick to synthetic rope on those. Let's get to driving. Let's have some fun.